This is Possibly Unsafe.
Today we're streaming games on Pi.
The cheapest Steam box ever.
Yum.
Pi. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Michael Hand.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a Raspberry Pi Model 2.
This is a Model 1.
Which looks exactly the same, except this one has a quad-core processor and more memory, which is super awesome.
But either way, we can do our really cool project today, which is streaming PC games to your Raspberry Pi. Kind of make a really cheap Steam box.
Well, okay, we're using NVIDIA's GameStream, and a lot of you may be going, well, you know, there's a $200 GameStream box coming from, you know, the NVIDIA people, which is great. If you got $200 for a Shield, go buy one.
Steam has the $50 one that's coming out.
Which is really awesome, but this is $35 and some spare parts we had stuffed around the house, which makes it, in our eyes, the cheapest and certainly the most DIY option. It's kind of crazy, like a $25, $30 board will turn into a game streaming machine anywhere in your house.
What can't you do with this thing?
Cut cheese.
I bet you could.
So, out of the box, Raspberry Pi is kind of a paperweight. There's a few things you need to add to it to turn it into a functioning supercomputery coolie thing. That is a micro SD card, which is what you need to store your operating system and applications, unless you're using an older Raspberry Pi, in which case you need a standard SD card, but you can probably figure that out for yourself.
You'll need a power supply. I'm just using a phone charger here.
Micro USB.
Micro USB, it works. And this is 2 amps, but I think 1 amp will work completely fine for the Raspberry Pi.
We're big on overkill with power. Ethernet is what we prefer. It's actually built into the Raspberry Pi motherboards. If you want to do Wi-Fi, you're going to need a USB dongle for that, but we tend to use Ethernet pretty much everywhere whenever we can because it's just better than wireless.
And you'll need monitor, keyboard, mouse, probably not mouse, keyboard, mouse, monitor, whatever. You'll need all that to do the initial setup for the Raspberry Pi, but after that, enable SSH and then you'll be elite hacker.
And don't even start this project if you don't have an NVIDIA 600 series or higher GPU in your gaming machine. And what's the other thing we need? Oh,
games.
Games.
Might want games.
Yeah. Bejeweled?
I mean, technically
a game. So what do we need on the PC side of things to set this up?
Okay, so like we mentioned, you'll need a 600 series NVIDIA card or up. So this will be for your full-on gaming rig, and then the NVIDIA GeForce Experience software that'll keep all your drivers up to date, and it has a little tab in here that says Shield.
Did you have to do anything to get it to say your PC is ready to stream to Shield devices?
No, it just works.
It just works. It's like Apple. So that's it.
Yeah, PC's done. That was easy.
Okay.
Now Raspberry Pi, a little bit more setup, but also not hard.
To the Raspberry Pi. Before you power up your Raspberry Pi, we need an operating system installed on that micro SD card. I suggest if you're new to Raspberry Pi, you go to raspberrypi.org, download a copy of Noobs, and get your Rasbian on. That's the OS we're going to use as the core of our build. It's the Debian Wheezy that has been set up for the Raspberry Pi.
Raspbian's nice because it has all of the prerequisites that you'll need anyway.
And if you don't know what a prerequisite is, don't worry, just download it and install it. The directions are all there.
Once your Pi is up and running, you'll see that raspi-config screen. It's the blue one. A couple of things here, enable SSH. Do not have it boot into the desktop, that'll just slow things down. And then configure your audio if you have anything special going on. We're just gonna use HDMI audio in this case.
That's pretty simple if you're running this into some type of home theater and or HDTV environment. So, what's up next?
All right, now we're going to SSH into the Raspberry Pi.
So it's essentially a secure tunnel to our Linux installation on our Raspberry Pi over the interwebs?
Exactly. SSH on Windows, you can use PuTTY. Basically, you just need the IP address or host name of your Pi. And then if you change the password, put that in, but it defaults to Pi and Raspberry.
By the way, giving yourself a static IP address for your Pi might be incredibly convenient when you're setting up your machine.
Also for your gaming machine, for sure.
That's true. Once you've got PuTTY set up and tunneled into your Raspberry Pi, you're going to go to github.com and get your Limelight on. Now, there's a Raspberry Pi version of Limelight, but that is not the version of Limelight you want to download and install.
No, that's an old version. So if you go into releases, you'll see if you keep going, you'd really have to try to get the Pi version, but just the embedded version works completely fine.
Cool.
So 2 things you're going to want here. You're going to want this libopus.so and limelight.jar. The easiest way to get it onto your Pi is to copy the link address, go back into here, and then you type wget and then paste that link, hit enter, a bunch of stuff will happen,
So basically, Putty is grabbing the stuff off the internet and scooching it through the SSH connection to the Raspberry Pi.
No.
Oh.
The Raspberry Pi is downloading it itself.
It's kind of like what I said.
Files are downloaded, so you want to type java-jar limelight.jar, and then to find things in case you don't have static IP address, type list.
List.
List is cool because it'll show you the compatible PCs on your network,
Nice.
and it'll also show the compatible apps.
Ooh.
Cool. All right, we know what our IP address of our machine is, so we're gonna type java-jar limelight, and then in this case pair, and then our PC name. All right, it's pairing now. You'll get a number that you need to enter into your streaming PC, your gaming PC.
I can do that.
All right, so now we're all paired. Now the fun begins. Do that same java-jar limelight.jar. In this case, we're gonna do stream, and then you can point to the IP address of your machine. So do our same one again.
So a lot of people at home right now are thinking, you know, 50 bucks, no typing in IP addresses, maybe Valve's box is worth the money.
Whatever. You can set flags for the resolution. I'll do 720 for these testing, and you can also do the frames per second. And then you need to add app and then whatever game you want to stream. We want to do Steam. It has to show up in that list that we saw earlier.
Got it.
Start. Let's see what happens.
Can't look up. Oh, stop.
But you're doing a great job.
Check this out. GameStream's running on the Raspberry Pi. I can click, I can need to map the controller properly because I can't click on what I want to click on.
Let's do that.
Okay. So we're tunneled back into the Raspberry Pi. Michael, what do we type in next?
So now you're gonna do cat/proc/bush/input/devices. This command will search all of the connected input devices on your computer, or in this case on the Raspberry Pi, and give you a cool looking readout.
That's a lot of stuff.
So here's the trick. In our case, we've got this USB controller.
Okay.
We're looking for event 0. If you only have one thing plugged in, it's probably gonna be event 0. But so you know. All right, so we have our event 0 thing. Now we're gonna type our java-jar limelight, you know the drill, and then map-input/dev/input/event 0, whatever event you found in there, and then whatever you wanna call your mapping file that you're creating. In this case, I'm doing rs4 for no reason .map. And then it'll give you instructions on what to do. All right, so now that we have our mapped controller, we can set all of our different things and it'll just work. So now that we've configured everything, I'm gonna do 1080p. I know that 30 frames per second works and 60 does not. We'll set app as Steam, and we'll add mapping and rs4.map that we just created. Hit
So
enter.
do I have to type this in every time I reboot the Raspberry Pi or launch a game?
You can set this as a startup script. You can type it in every single time. I mean, it's
So
up.
probably, unless you have a Raspberry Pi that never gets unplugged, you probably want to set this up as a startup script.
Or you can set up an SSH app on your phone. There's one on Android called Script Kitty that lets you set a custom script. So that's exactly what we were typing in Putty before. And then you can even make a little shortcut here to run it in one tap.
Look, kids, we're streaming Borderlands.
It looks good. We're doing 1080p 30 frames per second on this because 60 frames per second is really laggy, but this is totally acceptable. The compression looks pretty decent. I mean, it's not pristine like you would see on your computer, but
It's pretty freaking good for 30 minutes and like 20 minutes of typing.
I'm into it.
I'm into it. Pretty much the cheapest way we know of to stream your Steam games or your other video games to any HDMI ready monitor in your house.
There's a little bit of lag, but it's workable and I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Would a faster Raspberry Pi make the lag less?
I think it's the streaming thing, limitation.
Would a faster GPU make it lag less?
I think it's just the streaming thing.
Streaming people. It's a problem. When they actually ship those more expensive boxes later this year, we might actually get hands-on with them to test to see if they stream any better than our $35 Raspberry Pi box.
You can do this right now.
You can. You know what else you can do? Go to possiblyunsafe.com and watch all of our videos, or youtube.com/c/possiblyunsafe to also watch all of our videos, and subscribe in either place. We'd appreciate that.
And hey, Patreon. That's a thing.
Patreon.com/possiblyunsafe. It's a thing because it's a place where you can donate to support us, for us to keep making cool stuff for you, plus we get to eat, you get to see more stuff. It's a thing.
I'm not saying we'll like you more if you donate, but
we're much more likely to be able to keep making these shows for you if you donate. It's a thing. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Michael Hand.
We'll see you next week.